I finally got a new microphone. So the audio is not going to be crap, and I can talk Star Wars crisp and clear. Let's make it happen. What's up, guys? I'm Jacob Suggs, and I'm just gonna say, I think I came up with one of the best Star Wars theories ever. And if it already existed before I thought of it, I apologize, but I thought about this the other day, and so if somebody's already said it, I've never heard it before. Granted, somebody has. It's the age of the internet, so what hasn't been thought of that hasn't been thought of, if that even makes sense? That being said, though, the Star Wars prequels, whether you love them or hate them, do exist, but I will admit, even though I like those movies, they've got some problems. And mainly the biggest problem that I have with these movies is that the romance that's supposed to be between Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala, it doesn't exist. It's obviously the weakest part of Attack of the Clones, because Attack of the Clones, in the words of George Lucas, is a love story, and it just doesn't work out. It feels forced, unlike something like Han and Leia, which you actually feel and are connected with. This just feels disjumbled and very much like shoved onto you, like, hey, they're in love. And so a lot of lines fall flat. The dialogue's weak anyway, so it just helps when lines fall flat. And a lot of the stuff that Anakin Skywalker does to Padme to try to, like, romantically get her involved with him in this movie just comes off as very cringy and very creepy, if you will. There's a line at the start of Attack the Clones when Anakin and Obi-Wan are outside guarding Padme because there's an assassin trying to kill her, and Anakin's all like, I suppose she didn't like me watching her with all the cameras around. And right off the bat, I've come up with a theory, and I think that it fixes the romance a little bit and makes Anakin Skywalker a more menacing character to a certain extent, while not making him a bad guy. And I think that this fixes a portion of the prequel trilogy, which kind of sucks. So we all know Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one, but we already know that he's not perfect. Like, we can already tell that he's emotionally unstable, and this comes into play later in the film whenever his mother dies and he just goes, like, complete, like, crazy on the Tusken Raider camp. Because he slaughtered the men. But not just the men, but the women, and the children too. But you get my point. Anakin's emotionally unstable, and after he does things that he regrets, it goes from one emotion to another, just like that. And for some reason, Padme stays with him, but we don't know why exactly. This guy is just completely unhinged and full of raging emotions. And right off the bat, it's apparent to me that Padme is not all that interested in Anakin. Literally at the start of the movie, when Obi-Wan and Anakin approach Padme goes, Master Kenobi, Annie, how much you've grown since the last time I saw you. And Anakin responds by saying, not you, you're more beautiful than I remember. Just like in my dreams. I can tell you right now, as a dude who's been friend-zoned more times than you can imagine, when she looks at him and says, you'll always be that little boy I remembered on Naboo, you got friend-zoned, my friend. I'm sorry, Anakin, it happens, but you got friend-zoned. But Anakin does things throughout the course of the movie and actually gets assigned to Padme to help her on Naboo, to keep her in hiding from the assassination thing going on Coruscant. And that's where we get the majority of the movie, the love story thing. So we have Anakin and them in the fields of Naboo, yada yada yada, they fall in love in the arena on Geonosis, they kiss, they escape, they're happy, and they get married secretly on Naboo, the end. But like I've said before, it doesn't add up to me as to why she would fall in love with this guy. But I think I've come up with a theory, and if I didn't come up with it, I've heard it somewhere, as to why she fell in love with him. She doesn't. Or at least for a portion. You'll understand what I'm going to get at in a second. Basically, my theory is that Anakin Skywalker loved her so much, but knew she wasn't that all into him, so he quietly used a mind trick, or at least strong influence, to make her fall in love with him. There's even a scene in the movie on Naboo when Padme's like, what are you doing, using a Jedi mind trick on me? And Anakin's like, oh, they only work on the weak-minded. But when you're Darth Vader and are very strong with the Force and have incredible strong influence, I don't know if I can necessarily believe that. I mean, the guy becomes one of the most powerful Sith Lords and Jedi in the galaxy, so to say that he's not all that strong or that they only work on the weak-minded, I'm not quite sure. I mean, even when they kiss for the first time, Padme pulls back and she's like, no, that was a mistake. And Anakin's kind of creepy kind of approaches start to work towards the end. And when you're wondering why, if you think that he's using a mind trick, it kind of adds things up and makes him more of a despicable character, but it makes more sense as to why she's falling in love with him in the first place. And we know that a Jedi can't have attachments. They're forbidden because the Jedi are supposed to be focused on other things more so than love. Even Obi-Wan knows that he thinks that he's going to do something foolish. Whenever he drops them off, he looks at Captain Typho and he's like, I hope he doesn't do anything foolish. And then Captain Typho goes, I'd be more concerned about her doing something than him. Because we know Padme is not afraid to jump into stuff. I mean, she's a senator, was a former queen, we get that. But that being said, her only protection is Anakin, and I feel like that also has to come into play a little bit. But I also don't think that their love is entirely fake. Like, even if Anakin did use a mind trick on her, I think maybe he did it, A, unintentionally and just didn't realize it. B, he completely knew about it all along, which I think makes way more sense. Or C, he did it first, and then progressively stopped using the mind trick as she actually did fall in love with him. And I think that C makes more sense if you look at Revenge of the Sith. Because in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin is so afraid of losing Padme, he's got like the nightmare thing going on to where she's gonna die, and he wants to save her, and that's another reason why I think the Palpatine line about him saving someone from death using the Force makes kind of more of a bigger impact if you look at it this way. And that's also partially what draws Anakin to the dark side. He wants to save his wife from dying, and the only way to do that is through Sith teaching, apparently. I also want to say, and just quickly throw this out there, that I think that Palpatine drained Padme's life with the Force to make Darth Vader and save Anakin Skywalker's life to make him a Sith Lord. It just makes sense. If Darth Plagueis was Darth Sidious's teacher, wouldn't Palpatine know how to prevent death with the Force? And it also raises the question, did he really die in Episode 6? We don't know. I'm pretty sure he did, though. I mean, that was a long... That elevator shaft was pretty deep. But anywho, that's just my theory. I think that Anakin did use a Force mind trick, unintentionally or intentionally. All the signs point to it, and I feel like when you look at it this way, it makes the age gap and the dialogue and everything, it makes it feel like less forced. And it also makes Anakin, like, we can kind of see that this guy's gonna become Darth Vader. Jedi aren't supposed to make attachments, but that doesn't mean that he's gonna abide by those rules. And I think that that works way, way, way much more than the stupid dialogue. Frankly, I can't believe for a second that the dialogue actually works. But that's just me. Do you agree with my thoughts? Do you not agree? Let me know down in the comments down below. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe, frame by frame, remember the name, and I'll see you in the next frame by frame film review.